Hi, my name is Claire Mikeson, and I am the English Language Arts Instructional Coordinator at the Montana Office of Public Instruction. Once a month for the MAST Memo, I am bringing you an ELA strategy or resource that you can use with your students. And this month, I'm really excited to share one of my go-to resources for lesson planning and just finding learning activities to suit a specific purpose for your students. And that is Harvard's Project Zero thinking routines. So you can see this resource features a whole bank of just thinking routines and strategies. They work really well for getting students to dig deeper into a text or idea through discussion often, but you can adapt them pretty easily. And you can see they're organized by critical thinking category, and you can see an overview of what they are, what each type, kind of their purpose, by clicking that, an overview of the thinking categories. And since these kind of depend upon the complexity of the topics or the texts that your students are looking at, these are really suitable for, I would say, probably 312, and you can always sort of scaffold them up or down too. So I would say you could probably find stuff in here for kindergartners as well. So these routines are definitely worth exploring at length if you have the time, but this resource is also really efficient for finding a certain activity or strategy for your students. If you have a standard in mind or a skill that you want them to practice or some sort of text feature that you want them to explore. So if my students have just read a text and I want to emphasize different characters' point of view, for example, I'm going to look into this perspective taking category. And I'm cheating a little because I've already used these and I know this one is great. But I'm going to take a look at circle of viewpoints. So when you are here, there's a PDF and they're also accessible in Spanish. And you can just click on that PDF. And so each of these activities is going to have this just short overview of how you do them. And often they're just like 3 steps. So they're really easy, but also very adaptable. So I've used them as they are for maybe quick warm-ups when students enter the classroom. But I've also adapted some like this one to be longer, full lesson plans. So for circle of viewpoints, you can see students brainstorm perspectives, choose one to explore. And in this case, we have these sentence stems exploring characters' viewpoints, their thoughts, and what questions those characters might have. So I've used this for A Raisin in the Sun, and I've actually adapted it so that students start identifying those characters, but then they dig into one or more in more detail. So they're illustrating the characters and connecting it to inference and finding evidence from the text to support point of view. These thinking routines will also explain the purpose. So what kind of thinking does this routine encourage, and the application. So when you might want to use this with your students. So this particular activity is really useful for practicing those point of view, inference, textual evidence, characterization standards, and you'll find some sort of equivalent for those, pretty much K-12 in those ELA standards. They're also major players on that MAST assessment, but just for reading comprehension in general, right? Those are skills we continually have students come back to when they're reading. So I encourage you to take some time, explore this resource bank, and maybe if you're not all done with your lesson planning for tomorrow, this is a really quick way to find some high quality resources that are really going to encourage students' discussion and building those critical thinking skills. Thanks for watching.